welcome to the Lisa Mitchell Show. I am your host, Lisa Mitchell, obviously. And this is a show where we talk about powering your presence. I am a nonverbal skills expert, if you'll allow me that title. I specialize in body language and helping people really not only show up in the room the way they want to, but also help figure out what's going on the other side of their faces so they can make better decisions. And this season is all about powering your presence. And I'm on a roll. I've had a pile of really, really great guests on, and it continues today. You guys are so lucky because you get to spend time with Jason Barnaby, the FireStarter. Welcome.
Awesome. Hey, thank you. I love the comment about what's on the other side of your face. Or the other side of your body, however you said that. That's really great. I love that.
Yeah, that's one of my missions in life, is to figure out what's happening on the other side of my face. It's all about data points for me. I
love it. So FireStarters Incorporated, my official title, which I gave to myself because it's my business, right? So why not? So tribe leader and chief fire starter of FireStarters Incorporated, a business that I started about almost 2 years ago now, but dove in full-time about 5 months ago when my job in corporate America was eliminated in a 45-minute meeting. And so I had the choice of what to do. And I chose, instead of going back to the pool that I had been in, to go into a completely different pool. So pretty excited about that.
Yeah, we have similar stories on that front, Jason, as far as having a traditional kind of big corporate career and then having this other thing kind of simmering, and then whether you were shoved off a cliff or walked off the cliff, ending up, pursuing your passion on a full-time and make it or break it kind of basis. What was that transition like for you? Were you like charging ahead, ready to go, 110 certain of what you were getting into, or did you go in kicking and screaming, or where was your head at?
That's a I haven't thought about that before. I've had a lot of questions about how that was, but that's the first one. So I would say that I was walked to the end of the cliff. I knew that the end of the cliff was approaching. I had already seen that. But definitely once you got to the end, there was a definite push. Maybe more of a kick to get started. And the crazy thing is, I had gotten to a point where I was doing this side hustle, this FireStarters thing on the side. And I started to look into the end of the year, and I was like, I'm getting speaking gigs and I'm not going to have enough vacation days to cover what I'm doing that I love while still like really actually taking vacation and taking care of myself. So partly this was a bit of a relief, I would say, that this came the way that it came. I was blessed in the fact that it did also come with some severance. So it wasn't just to throw you off with no safety net. Yeah. I did get about 5 months, which I've really used to ramp up my side hustle to be the full-time hustle. In fact, that last severance payment was this past Friday. So I am officially
flying without a net now, huh?
No net. Yeah, no, I feel at times like no parachute, no nothing. So, but at the same time, as I was telling you before we got started today, I just delivered a keynote here locally in Indianapolis for Forum Credit Union, and got a chance to walk through the crowd before lunch. And I hung around for a while and had several people, as I was telling them my story and they were asking me questions, just say, you are exactly where you need to be. And that was such great affirmation and confirmation for me that taking this trip and jumping, kind of bungee jumping, off the end of the cliff was exactly where I'm supposed to be. And to be on that stage this morning, I walked off and I'm like, yep, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. It's a feeling like no other.
Yeah, isn't that such a great, I know exactly that feeling and exactly that moment that you're talking about. And it's usually following several days of anxiety, feeling like I'm not prepared, rehearsing, tweaking, feeling like I kind of want to throw up before I walk on, wondering if anybody's going to find what I have to say valuable, getting on stage, loving it, almost like out of body experience. It just flies by so fast. And then I'm like, what the heck just happened when I walk off?
Yeah.
That's my process. I don't feels anything like that to you?
So mine is similar. I have always been one of those shoot from the hip people. I have about 1,000 ideas a day. So my biggest challenge is to harness those and to bring them into the place where it works. So I think there's always a little bit of, and I don't know, some people call it imposter syndrome and some people call it different things. It's that I definitely had that this morning as I was driving. Is what I've prepared what it is that they need to hear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did I do, and I feel like I felt like I did. I felt confident. I am a little bit of a different animal. I put it all together, but I don't make any notes. I put my visuals out there, and those visuals are cues for me to tell stories. I do go through it in my brain and I speak it out loud at least once, but I don't like fine tune, rehearse. I know people have said you have to do that. I've never done that in my whole life. And I found that when I do that, and I've done it a few times, that I overthink it. So it's easier for me not to do that. And I was saying this morning to this group actually that if I had on two hands, if you said, Jason, you can get on stage and speak to 2,000 people with a wireless mic on a really big stage on this hand, or on this hand, you can, I don't know what you would put in this hand to make me not choose this hand.
Really?
Seriously. I mean, spending time with my family, and I jokingly say, but it's sort of serious because it is a dream of mine. Maybe helicopter skiing could go in that hand. But even then I might go, yeah, I'll go helicopter skiing next week. I'd really like to get up on that stage.
Yeah.
So I just feel like that was what I was made to do. And to be able to do it and get paid and make a living and feel like you're making a difference, definitely the adrenaline rush that comes from that is like nothing I've ever experienced.
Yeah, you get to be a rock star in your own mind, huh?
I do as many times as people will hire me and put me up there. It's awesome.
Yeah. No, I love it. Do you have, I know some people have like pregame rituals, or they have like a process that they use to kind of get them in that prime state to go on stage and be really confident and dynamic, which is part of what the show is for, right? Is sharing,
right,
sharing your secrets, your processes to help the listeners and viewers really figure out what feels right for me and how can I incorporate this into my confidence building process.
Yeah.
So what does that kind of pregame confidence building process look like for you?
So for me, it's definitely making sure that I have all my technology and things taken care of the night before. I don't want to be stressing about that the morning of. So I have, things saved on a flash drive, things emailed to me for backups, because I'm sure that that the biggest enemy of any speaker is technology.
Maybe.
And yeah, always. I call it spirits in the material world, because it just
how many techs, how many IT people are on
no,
site, it doesn't
no,
matter. Something
no.
will always go wrong.
No, in fact, I was just in Orlando last week doing one, and we ran through it before anybody else was in the room. I had her do the video, the tech person do the video. It loaded seamlessly. She was going to control it from her computer. It was perfect. Got up on stage, she hit play, and it completely froze the entire presentation. So it's just, and I think Alex Perry has said this on at least one of her blog posts, if not others, but it's not what to do if the tech goes wrong, it's what to do when the tech goes wrong.
Absolutely.
And so I always have a little, I have an extra story in my back pocket to, do that, the song and dance while those things are getting, but I also make a joke of it. In fact, today, for whatever reason, this slideshow was on the slides were timed, so they were auto advancing, and there were times when I could turn it off and there were times when I couldn't. It seemed like on certain slides, but on other slides it wasn't. And I have no idea I'm going to go back and look at it, but I have no idea why it was happening. So I would walk over and, go back to the slide that I was on before. And finally it went actually a couple of slides ahead. And I was like, oh, well, here we go. Problem solved. And I just blacked out the screen. And then I walked back over to my laptop when I needed the next slide, got it to where I needed it, put the screen back on, so it's just being comfortable knowing that things are not going to go well. So that's part of it. I also do a thing which you probably have in one way or another advise people to do. I shake before I go. Like I shake out my arms and I shake out my legs. I kind of do the hokey pokey a little bit, like backstage where nobody can see me, because it does look like I might be having a bit of a spasm attack. But I shake all that out because I try really hard to keep my hands when I'm not using them. I don't like the pterodactyl arms, so to put them down. Right. So that's another. I always listen to good music on my way to the venue. So what's your
jam? Like, what's your jam?
It really depends on what I'm feeling, but I'm a huge Coldplay fan, and I'm a huge Dave Matthews fan, and I'm a huge U2 fan. So any of those that are live, like I'm a big fan of Coldplay, Something Just Like This, just because of that really bassy, buzzy. Vertigo is one by U2 that I really like, and then Dave Matthews' new album just in general. But I also like I gotta get to the chorus in my head. Not Space Between. Funny the Way It Is. There's a great live version of Funny the Way It Is. And I'm a huge Dave Matthews fan because I saw him in a Holiday Inn conference room with about 700 other people back in the day, and it was amazing. And I've seen him like grow and grow and grow and grow. So I could listen to live Dave pretty much all day long. So that's another. And then the other thing is I struggled for, and I hope this resonates with some folks that are listening to your podcast. I struggled for 2 solid years up until about a year ago with some serious head trash around. And the 2 things that I had were, you don't have anything to say. And if you did have something to say, nobody would want to listen anyway. And that kept me from writing. That kept me from speaking. That kept me from sharing. That kept me from doing a lot of things. And I'm a faith-based guy. I'm a Christian believer. And I really felt like in this journey, God was teaching me, like, look, these are my gifts that I've given you. And they're my gifts for my purposes, for my glory and in my timing. So if you just show up and know that I've already prepared the ground, it's going to be okay. So I find, and I'm sure you see this in speaking, showing up is a lot of times like 90% of the battle sometimes, just to show up. And so I am showing up with an expectation that I'm there for a reason. And so I'm not walking in going, kind of the Eeyore, like, why am I here? Do I really have something to say? I try to be really present in that mindset of, you have something to say. You're here for a reason. You were chosen, above other speakers. So the message that you have is important, and it's what people need to hear. And so I walk in with trying to have that mindset and that confidence.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I love that you brought up this idea of head trash, because it's something that I talk a lot about on almost every episode, and a ton offline that never makes it on, is this idea of like, who am I to say this? Like, who am I to be in this room? Who am I to deliver this message? Who am I? Right. Like that's the thing that still, if I don't keep it in check, like that's the thing that gets to me still now.
Totally.
Even seeing the impact and having the affirmation and the confirmation from audiences that, well, who am I to be the one saying this, or somebody else that can say it better, or is bigger, or is better known for this, or whatever. Right. But it's right. It's that purpose thing, right? It's like, there is someone who only, like, and I changed it from who am I to, if not me, who?
I was actually going to say that. That's a great point, because it's true. Could there be somebody that says it better than you? Yes. But is that person in the room? No, they're not. You're in the room. So you're the reason that you should be, you're the one that should be doing it. And I had a really good friend of mine when I was going through some of that head trash stuff. He looked at me and he goes, Barnaby, I've known you since college. He's like, you're the real deal. You're a leader. You lead with heart. You lead with humility. And he goes, people are waiting to follow people like you who will step out and lead, but they can't follow if you don't step out. And that just...
First of all, let's say, what a great friend.
Totally.
Right? Like,
totally.
What a great friend because you were probably, if I had to guess, again, no context, you were probably coming to a space that this isn't meant for me, or a space of doubt, or
totally.
Or wanting to back out of something, right? And,
yep.
and for that friend to present that challenge of truth to you.
Yeah.
Right. And it's probably painful, I'm sure, at the time, but what a great friend to just really challenge you, right? That's the importance of tribes.
Absolutely. Right? And I would say, I posted actually today on LinkedIn a picture from this forum keynote. It's pretty cool the way that they did it, but it's up above, they've got this lit up banner and it has my name and a picture of me. So it's like my version of, my name in lights.
Right.
But it was so cool because I said, I'm doing this and I'm doing it like October is going to be the best financial month I've ever had in my life. And it's all FireStarters Incorporated. It's all my own business. And it's all because I decided to face my fears, to chase my dreams, and to really tend to that tribe and to have the right people around me. And I would say as hard as I have worked in the world of trying to craft my message and do those kinds of things, I've worked equally as hard, if not harder, in making sure that I have the right tribe around me to speak truth into my life, who know that I'm speaking, who will send me text messages unsolicited to say, hey dude, know that you're going up today, praying for you, know you're going to do awesome, go kill it, all that sort of stuff. And I've already gotten some of those messages on the LinkedIn posts that I have, but I cannot overstate the importance of how important it is to have the right people around you, because I've seen a lot of people who have amazing messages and have a crappy tribe, and they're never going to get off the starting blocks because they don't have the support that they need to get there.
Right. Yeah, no, that's so important. And it's not it may be a solo venture, but it is not a solo adventure, right? Like
Totally.
It's one of those things. And I love that you've been so intentional and so deliberate about spreading the importance of building a tribe and putting events together and bringing people together in a very intentional way to help give people the right support and the right mechanism around them. Because I'll tell you, there was a time when I was launching this where, my business 3 or 4 years ago, where I was like isolated. Like I'd kind of put myself on this island and I'm like, well, nobody else can understand what I'm going through because I'm the only one that's ever had this experience and I'm the only one that's ever struggled. And, again, had trash added to the pile.
Right.
But what I found is when I got intentional and when people started challenging me to get connected and serve as well as be served, right? Like that's when my confidence grew. Right. My material got better. My opportunities increased, all of that happened as soon as I got plugged into the energy of a good tribe.
Right. And there's so much, I think, if I think, especially in this business, and you said it really well, it's a solo venture, but it's not a solo adventure, but it's also like, because you are working for yourself and by yourself, and there's nobody else on stage with you usually when you're the one doing it, right? It's you and you alone and your material and the way that you're doing it and all those things. It's a scary thing to admit to other people that you're struggling or that you feel lonely. But what I have found time and time and time again is that when you reach out and say, I'm struggling, I feel like I'm on my own, I'm nervous, I'm freaking out about this, these people go, yeah, me too. Yep, I have too. I've done that. I've been in your same spot. I was in your place a year ago. I totally get it. Here's how I overcame it. And so there's so much, it's hard to take that step of vulnerability, but there's so much compassion and reaction that comes from that vulnerability that it's way easier to do the next time after you've done it the first time.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten a negative or hurtful response from when you have been brave and disclosed those feelings?
Say that again, because I had somebody calling me, so I missed the first part of what you said. Sorry.
Have you ever had a negative response from somebody when you've been vulnerable and stepped out like that?
No, never.
Right? Like it just doesn't happen. Like people extend so much grace and will bend over backwards to help support you and fill that gap. But man, taking that first oh, I'm not so great right now, things are really hard. Like that's a tough place to be, especially when it's, when the spotlight is on you, you're
right.
You're the only one to sink or swim.
Totally.
Yeah. No, I've had similar experiences, and it's such a game changer when you can get that right. And it's not just people telling you what you want to hear, right? Like
yeah.
Right. And I think that's where I have been in the wrong groups at times, right?
Mm-hmm.
The wrong tribe is the people that just, I don't need you to tell me how great I am. I need you to tell me where I need you to have the tough conversations with me about where I'm falling short or where I could do better, or I need that challenge.
Absolutely. And to me, that's the place where you know that you have the right tribe, because they're the people who are going to affirm you and tell you the things that you've done well. But we're never going to get, none of us are perfect. We're never going to get better if somebody says, you know, you could have taken that story a little deeper, or you could have been a little more vulnerable, or that story actually went on too long and you were starting to lose me. Those are the kinds of things that we need to hear, because here's the thing. When you walk out into a crowd after you've done a keynote, you're not going to have people out there go, oh, I would have done it this way, or I would have done it that way. The people that are going to come up to you are going to be the people who said, man, that was really awesome. I really appreciate what you said. Really inspired me, blah, blah, blah. So you need, and that's why I love it when I have tribe members of mine that are in the audience, because I know afterwards they will say, yeah, you know, and here's the thing. And I say, it's taken me a long time, Lisa, to be able to say this, like with a straight face and not apologize for it. I know that I'm a good speaker. I know that that's what I'm made to do, but I know that I can always improve. So I don't need people in my tribe to stroke my ego. Like, I know that that's what I do well. So I almost like when people in my tribe are like, oh, that was really good. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I get it. But tell me, like, what could I do better next time? Because I want to get better.
Right.
And they know that they've got the permission and the freedom to tell me that. And that's huge. And it's a two-way. There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of vulnerability. It's definitely a two-way street. But it's essential if you want to get better. It's essential.
I could not agree more. And I think, you know, for the people that are listening and the people that are watching this and they haven't asked for that feedback, or haven't maybe been as open to that feedback before, right? Like, this is where it's your time to be brave. If you're working on honing your craft, if you're working on being kind of best in class at whatever you're doing, whether you're a professional or a creative or both, or a performer, you know, it's that feedback that you have to be humble enough and gracious enough to accept it, because it stings. I'll tell you, like, I do feedback when I do corporate training and I do speaking events. Everybody gets a feedback form, and it's not just to give me all fives and tell me I did great, right? It's questions that really allow, and again, anonymously, so terrifying, but allow people to say everything from presentation, you know, was there anything distracting in my presentation? You know, like sometimes I a lot, or sometimes I, who knows what, depending on the day, right? But that awareness, and I'll get 50 that were all fives, great, amazing, blah, blah. And I'll get like 2 that are like, you said, too much. And, you know, something else, like, well, I don't, you know, and those are the 2 that I'll spin on for a minute, because my ego's
right? Absolutely.
My ego's hurt, and I'm like, how did you not think I was amazing? Because that's what my ego wants to hear.
Right.
And then I can really sit down and objectively, like, absorb that feedback and make course corrections based on it. But I'll tell you, I'm the first one to say that when I first read it, if it's not a 5 or it's not a good comment, I'm like, what do you mean? Right? Like,
what's the matter with you?
Right. That's exactly, like, that's the knee-jerk reaction, is that, what?
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. Thank you for being brave to give me real, like, valuable feedback.
Yeah. And I'll give you a real life example of so in my former career in financial services, there's a lady who is very well known. I won't mention her by name, but she's very well known, speaks a lot in the financial services world, does a lot of training and development. I had never seen her before she came to present at a national sales meeting that I was a part of. And I was listening to her. The material was really good. The content was good. But I can't, and as I'm sure you, because of what you teach and stuff, I've also taught presentation skills. So it's kind of like being a waiter. You can't go to a restaurant and not be highly critical of everything. Yeah. So she said, I just started making tick marks, because that's the way that I can continue to listen and not get completely stuck on it. Right. I stopped after 2.5 minutes and she had over 50. And this is a woman who's been in the industry for years and years and years. So I walked up to her afterwards, and I had met her once before. So this wasn't like, you know, just blind out of and I said, hey, I really, you know, and I told her some things that I really appreciated. And I said, I gave her a little context. I said, I've taught speaking and I speak myself. And I said, if you're open to some feedback, I'd like to give it to you. And she said, you could, you know, she kind of, you know, bristled a little bit, and she's like, okay. And I showed her my tick marks and I said, do you know what this is? And she said, no. And I said, this is the number of times you said, in the first 2.5 minutes. And I thought she was going to pass out. But she looked at me, and she's been doing this. I mean, at this time, she'd probably been doing this for at least 15 years. And she said, Jason, thank you so much. Nobody has ever told me this, but I know people talk about it. And so to her credit, this was super cool. To her credit, she went and joined a Toastmasters group. And the next time I saw her, the ums were gone.
Yeah.
And I walked up and she saw me. She didn't know that I was going to be at that particular event, but I was walking up and she goes, I know why you're coming. And I said, I'm coming to congratulate you because they're gone. And she said, I worked really hard and I really appreciate your feedback. And so that's the other thing for me is that we assume, I think sometimes that because people are up on the stage that they have those people who are telling them those things. I think sometimes those are the people that have the fewest, if none of those people that are telling them those things. And they're just going to keep doing it over and over. And so I would want somebody to tell me if I was doing that. And so as graciously and professionally as I can do that, I want to make sure that I give that feedback to someone.
Yeah, I think it's important to give it and it's important to receive it because
yes,
that's the thing. I hear myself. I'm so used to myself that I just skip right over those little things.
Mm-hmm.
But people that I'm new to are really paying attention and it can really detract. So that's something I've been working on. It's still an area of development and it still comes up on a comment sheet every once in a while, but I ask for it, right? I ask for it. And so I have to be gracious enough to receive it and be thankful enough that someone was candid and would bring me some really valuable information.
Right.
And I think I think knowing that you're going to get good feedback really, talk about powering your presence and how you're showing up in a room. I think that really does impact how people show up in a room.
Absolutely.
There are never the most intimidating situation for me to walk into is a room where I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
With our tribe, right? Because we have a lot of mutual just awesomeness between, our mutual friends and everybody is phenomenal in their own field and their own area of expertise. But it's hard to get up in front of them.
Right.
Because you know how good they are.
Right.
Right? Like you get me in a room with Lindsay Picardo and I'm like, holy crap.
But at the same time, to me, you know the feedback that you're going to get from them. Like it's like going to, I don't know how to, it's almost like being in a master's degree cohort, like you just got these people that have taken it to the next level. And so it's like, yeah, I want you to tell me I'm amazing, but I also know that you've done this a lot more times than me, or you've done it in front of different audiences, or you're coming from a different perspective, or you're seeing things that I don't see. Like Julie Kratz helps me often about, have you maybe think about this from a male ally perspective? And did you realize that by saying things this way, you left out this whole group of people? And it's like, those are the kinds of things I need to hear.
Right.
But yeah, I love the fact that we have that intertwined tribe. I want to tell you one more very quick story about feedback, because like you said, I think sometimes we can get really focused on that stuff that's negative. So I did a thing last year for ATD and I had broken my foot way before I said yes, or I had said yes way before I had broken my foot. And so I showed up, but I had to be on a knee cart to and so nothing in the presentation books about presenting on a knee cart, right? So I'm trying to have as open body posture and, all that sort of stuff as I possibly can. Had generally a pretty gracious audience, and most people were like, hey, thanks for showing up. I know that wasn't easy, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't dwell on the whole injury and all that, but I did have one person who gave me on a scale of 1 to 5, he gave me a 2 because they said, I was distracted by the knee cart. And I'm like, I get it. And I appreciate that. But I'm like, but if you were distracted by the knee cart, you missed the point. You know what I mean? Like I get that the knee cart could have been distracting, but I think there's some grace that needs to happen. So I think sometimes when those negative things come, you just have to, people, they're always going to be haters. I mean, the phrase haters gonna hate is out there for a reason, because there are always going to be those people that hate. And sure, take that if it's constructive, but if it's not, I mean, that's head trash. It needs to go right into the garbage disposal and just be, taken care of and not left to linger.
That's projection, right?
Yeah.
Like that's somebody's insecurity about something. They would probably never get up and talk in front of a room, right? But they're
Right.
the harshest critic. And, that was, with some of the coaches that I've worked with, that they said the goal of any good speaker or anyone who's doing, quality work in a public forum is not to be liked. It's to have a strong enough opinion that people feel one way or another about you.
I like that. That's powerful.
People that are liked aren't impactful. People that are liked don't leave a legacy. People that are liked don't spur people into action or start solutions, right?
That's a great point.
People are very strong in an opinion and they defend it respectfully. And if you don't like them at the end of it, that's fine. Mission accomplished.
Sure.
Right? Because
Yeah,
those aren't the people that are going to rally behind you and knock down the walls anyways, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
Yeah. So it's okay I'm getting comfortable in the space of being a little more polarizing. That was very difficult for me because I want people to like me and I want people to think I'm competent, right? That I know what I'm talking about, that I'm smart. And those are the two things with the agency I was working with that got beat out of me the fastest. You don't want everybody to like you. If everyone likes you, your opinion isn't strong enough. Try again. Right?
I like it. Yeah.
That doesn't mean you can't bring value to everyone.
Sure.
It just means your job is not to win everyone over to thinking you're nice.
Right. No, that's a good point. I like that.
That was a big shift in mindset for me to try to wrap my head around not having the mission critical of being seen as nice, but being seen as having a strong opinion and being able to speak and stand on that.
Yeah, that's a really, I've thought about that since I've really delved headfirst into this whole thing on my own. And my stint in corporate America was a 10-year stint with one company. It was the only stint in corporate America I ever did. But I found that during that time that I was always, if this is like the area where you're supposed to be, I was always just a little bit out here. And I was made to feel a lot of times, not all the time, but I was made to feel a lot of times like that was a bad thing.
Right.
And what I've realized in going out on my own is that is the thing, like what you're saying, that is the thing that pulls people to me. And that's actually my strength.
Well, and it's a filter, right?
Yeah.
It's a really strong filter to say who's going to ride with you and who's not meant for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can tell you the day that I decided that, these perceived weaknesses that I had, that people were telling me like, don't do that, get in line, be this way, do that. The day I said, no, I'm not, like, actually the thing that gets the most response is when I'm opposite that. And I decided that was going to be my focus, was a huge game changer. So I say that because if there's somebody listening who feels like they're a round peg in a square hole, or however that phrase goes, to just maybe that's your thing. The thing that you're always being criticized for is the thing you need to go do the most.
Yeah. No, I love that. I was the same way. I've been an out of place weirdo from the word go, growing up in a small town and my job in corporate America. Like pretty much everything I've done, nobody gets it. Like, where did you come from? What are you doing? Right. And now apparently the nice way to say that is Risktaker, as opposed to pain in the ass or troublemaker or weirdo. Right. All of which I've been referred to in the past. Sometimes
same.
They love me, even though they don't really understand me.
Right.
I love that message of just like looking at what makes you stand out and leveraging that as an asset.
Yeah.
And not as a liability. Because I think that just shifting that mindset of this is a gift, this is a unique perspective that I have.
Yeah.
Opens so many doors and really connects and resonates and makes other people brave to do the same thing too. Yeah.
It really was a game changer. Have you ever worked with Brian Neal? Do you know Brian?
I know Brian. Yeah.
Okay. So Brian and I went to college together. And so I got together with him a couple of years ago, and he told me that I should be consulting, and he gave me advice that I've tested for the last 3 years. And it is so true. And he basically told me, he said, Barnaby, all that stuff that you do every day that you just think is normal, he's like 75% of the world doesn't know that. And the other 25 need to be reminded. And I would actually say, as I've tested it, it's closer to 85 to 90% of the world doesn't know it.
Right.
Even though to me and probably to you, like it's never it shocks me when I get up in front of a group, because it's never the thing that I think is going to be like, like the thing that people are going to go, oh, that's so good. It's the thing that, like, I would say, like, doesn't everybody know that?
Right. It's like the curse of knowledge, right? Like it's it's part of your thought process, but for other people, it's groundbreaking. And
it's so outside the box. and that whatever that percentage is doesn't know it, and that the other percentage just needs to be reminded. And that's true. And I saw it again today when I did this keynote at Forum. Like, some of the things I thought were going to be, some people responded, but the vast majority responded to some things that upon reflection, I'm like, oh, I guess not everybody does know that. Huh.
Yeah, that's one of the questions on my feedback form is, what's the most surprising thing you heard today? And it's
like
never
that.
what I think it'll be, right? So
right.
Never what I think for a group. Okay, this is probably what's really going to be helpful to them. It's not, there's always something else that finds its way in there, and I love it. And it's never the same answer twice. And but I think that's such an important reminder, is that you are, like, people experience you through their lens. And you don't know what they need to hear, right? You can say, I hope something connects or resonates, but you don't know the lens that they're walking into that room with.
No.
And all you can do is show up and be as present as you can, and use your power for good.
Yeah.
And hope that you can kind of ping in that heart spot of the lens that the person that you're talking to needs filled.
Yeah, totally.
And it's a huge responsibility and a huge honor. And I know it's joyful work for me, and it's joyful work.
Oh, so joyful. It's
been so fun to see. I mean, it's a ton of work. Like, that's the thing. Like, I work harder at this than I ever did.
Amen. Amen.
I just put a new talk together for a conference I have coming up in Austin, and working on the deck and figuring out what pings and what conveys the right thing visually, and and it's love, right? Like, I'm doing it in love. But it's a lot of work.
Yes.
A lot of work, and I do it with love, and I do the work because I care about the experience that the people on the other side of me are having.
Right.
So it's I'll do the best that I can with what I have, but it's really about the experience that you create. What was the experience you created this morning for that audience, right? Like, nobody walked in that room knowing what that was going to be like, and you got to drive that whole situation from your perspective.
And it's, you're right. Like, I've probably worked harder and longer than I did for those 10 years in corporate America, with the exception of a few, like, tight deadlines and big projects. But, and I used to think it was so cliche when I would hear this, like, if you do what you love, it never feels like work. And I mean, yes, you're doing things, but it isn't instead of it draining you, I find that it energizes me, because it's like, I'm sitting there trying to figure out, like, how are they going to respond, or how's this going to go over, or what's it going to be like, or, ooh, this is really good. And there's so much energy that comes from that it's not like, oh, I have to go to these 5 meetings today.
Yeah,
it's going to suck out my soul.
It's not drudgery. Yeah. It's tiring, but it's not drudgery. It's right. I have a very similar experience when I'm working on things. Well, listen, I want people to be able to find out more about your tribe, and find out how to get in touch with you for speaking gigs and workshops and all the things that you have to offer. Where's the best place for people to find out more about you?
So I would say 2 places. If you want the overall being able to see what I do and what I offer, my website is www.firestarterstribe.com, firestarterstribe.com. There is a button on there that says Hire Jason, and you can tell me about the speaking gig or the workshop or whatever. Give me a description. You're not hiring me by actually hitting that button. I think sometimes people are like, there's, under no obligation. You're just sending me some information
or anything, right?
And exactly. The second place I would say is follow me and connect with me on LinkedIn. I post a ton of stuff on LinkedIn. I do several videos. There's almost always a Friday video that I've titled Comfortable Being Uncomfortable, that I started right after I was eliminated. That corporate job was eliminated. So those 2 places, LinkedIn and firestarterstribe.com, would be the 2 best places.
All right, guys. So now, where to get Jason Barnaby, firestarterstribe.com, or find him at Jason Barnaby on LinkedIn. You also know where to find me, because you really can't get away from me even when you try. I am at powerbodylanguage.com, at Lisa Mitchell on Twitter, Lisa Mitchell Indy on Instagram, and all over LinkedIn, always posting randomness there. So thank you for joining us on another episode of the Lisa Mitchell Show, where we teach you how to power your presence and show up in every room exactly how you want to.